Hey,
Jim,
Chuck. How's it
how are
going?
you?
I'm doing well here in Satan's backyard today. A little hot here in Texas, a little humid. One of those
Yeah,
days you take a shower and you walk out and you're like, wait, I thought I dried off.
yeah. You take 5 steps, and you're like, "What was the point?" Right. So, how are
Yeah.
things? I mean, other than slowly dying from heat exposure, how are we doing?
Right. Staying out of the sun. Us fair skinned people, it scares us.
Exactly.
Things are good. Hey, I thought I'd kick us off a little bit with some nice news, which is as our channel is growing, I think we just passed our 1 year anniversary, which feels like we've been here a lot more time, but we have a year. The
Correct.
new format is only 7 or so months old, or a year old, I guess. I don't know. We're doing good. We
Yeah.
hit 50 subscribers, which is nice. We're not
Right.
going fast. We're by no means an indie sports car, but we are certainly an Oregon Trail.
Okay.
So thank you to all that. Our viewership is way up. We've been seeing 30-minute watch times. And that's the one I want to thank everybody watching for, because when you watch more, YouTube goes, oh, you must be good. People like you, so you must be doing okay.
Gosh
So we
darn it, they
appreciate
really
that.
like me.
Someone gotta like me. We appreciate you, to our listeners, our viewers, our watchers. You guys are awesome. Thanks for doing that. Keep it up. Keep sharing. Keep telling your friends, because our goal is just to build a community, make a difference, right? And you heard us last week. We talked a little. Oh, you haven't heard that one yet. You will hear this week on the episode where we talk a little bit about community and some of the things, drifting away from politics all the time and trying to find a soft spot every once in a while.
Right.
We also are working on a couple guests coming up. So we got some good, exciting times this summer. So how's your lettuce, Chug?
Well, Jim, since I've been vegan, I have rarely gone to Taco Bell, so I'm okay with that. Yeah, my mom, I had some romaine in the house last week. My mom's like, no, you gotta throw it out. And I'm like, I'm gonna die of something. Maybe
Why not go out with an
I'll lose
explosion?
some weight. Who knows?
It's now named Trumperia, is the new running name for this disease. Yep.
Trumperia.
And as the Dangerous One said this morning on their podcast, and I loved it, well, if he's got to have the shits and wear dump diapers, we might as well do it too.
Okay.
So people are kicking in on this puncher. It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's the effects of something we did, right? This is the lovely part, Mr.
Well,
Musk.
it's this, the problem is, just like you guys are dealing with those, what are they called? Those worms. I'm not being funny. The ones that we talked about a couple weeks ago, I can't remember what it's called, but it's the worm that infects cattle and then bores their way out. I mean, it's you and I have talked many times, and this again is apolitical. It really is an apolitical statement. We've talked many times about just the shaking our head at the fact that we as human beings seem to just absolutely not want to learn from history. Right. And I don't mean 600 years ago history. I mean recent history. And when Donald Trump in his first administration, Barack Obama had set up a rapid response team in case there was a worldwide pandemic. And I'm not hammering Trump. It just seems,
why not?
No, I mean, well, because I'm not going to do that anymore. Not for the sheer fun of it, at least. No, it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck kind of thing. Because Barack Obama put it in place, he got rid of it. Well, 2.5 years later, we ended up, or however many years later, we ended up with a worldwide pandemic. Yep. I think it's fair to say, and again, this is an apolitical statement. This is with the benefit of hindsight. I think it's fair to say that we were caught with our pants down when the pandemic hit. I mean, or we were caught unawares. However, we weren't prepared. So that was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So 6 years ago, I guess. So here we go again. So the first thing we're going to do is DOGE is going to come in and it's going to cut funding to the CDC and everything else. So the worms that are infecting Texas, they cut funding on the early warning system for that. So oops. Yep. And now here we are with, we cut funding to the people that check and jump on top of these kind of things when they run out. And it was very interesting because I can't remember the name of the farm, that it was that this bad lettuce, this tainted lettuce was they backtracked to and said, oh, it came Clayton Farms or something. I probably
it's a big name farm.
Right. The other day, they met with the Trump administration behind closed doors, and suddenly it was, well, we're not sure it was them. So
there's nothing a little grift can't get you.
Well, I'm not saying maybe they did actually do some more testing and find out that it was not, in fact, that place. But this administration, more than any administration I'm aware of, is very much, if you do for me, I will do for you. And everything's very transactional. And again, I feel like that's an apolitical statement. I feel like I can back that up with 1,000 different examples, which I'm not going to do right now. But we've talked about them in the past, and I don't want to belabor them. But very, very tit for tat. I will say this. I will say one thing about Donald Trump that gives me a bit of a giggle, because it doesn't really affect the world. And let me explain. More than any president, I think in our lifetime, Donald Trump likes to insert himself in things that presidents characteristically have never been part of. Okay. He was the first president to go to an NBA game. He was the first president to go to a World Cup game. He went to the Knicks game, and the Knicks, I think they were on a 3-game winning streak, and they lost not because he was there, but that was the joke, because then when he didn't show up, they went on to win. Right. He stuck his finger on the scale with FIFA to get Balogun's red card taken away, and then the very next game, the U.S. men's team got hammered and were out. And then the other day, because if I haven't said this before, I am a soccer / football fanatic, right. And watching the final, he was all in on Argentina, and Argentina got beat. So
because everybody expected Argentina to win. That's the funny thing.
Well,
right?
they were
a bit of an upset.
They were literally ranked number 1 in the world going into the World Cup. And Messi, I would argue that, and I don't think this is a big argument. I don't think it's the LeBron Jordan argument. I think most people agree that Messi's the greatest that ever to play football, ever. And they got beat, and it was a hell of a game. And I won't get into all of the politics of the actual FIFA, because we all know that FIFA is the most, considered the most corrupt organization on the planet. And that's not me talking. That's thousands and thousands of articles.
Trying to drive Uber for FIFA was corrupt.
Right. So, but no, it was just, and then of course Donald Trump was on the stage, and or Diaz or whatever you call it, and Spain was getting ready to hoist and do the whole thing, and that's their moment. And Infante, whatever the FIFA CEO or president's name is, tried to get him off the stage, and he wouldn't go because he likes to insert himself in things as if he somehow had something to do with Spain's win.
Yeah, exactly.
even though he was rooting for Argentina. I just think that's funny. There's an inside joke that if you want your team to lose, have Donald Trump show up. So I'm just saying.
It's interesting. I mean, I think that public sentiment is getting louder about our dear president and our dear because everybody that is feeling it is finally waking up, that it ain't going away. This wasn't a blip. Gas prices went back up again. And now he's touting how they were $3 instead of, it's like it's a constant. And what is oil? Is it over 100 yet? It was getting up to $100 a barrel, which is a real critical number.
I think the last time I looked today, it was at 91, but still it's over $4 a gallon national average now.
I think my favorite of the week, the thing I saw posted was that Iran would stop doing things in the Strait of Hormuz as soon as we had regime change.
Right. Well, you and I, and let's talk politics for a minute, and not left, right. Let's just talk politics for a minute. I've never seen, again, I'm not a baseball fan, but I'm aware of the term forced error, and hopefully everybody can grasp what that means. And I've never seen an administration with so many forced errors. And what I mean by that is gas prices were going down. Things were starting to cool down. All of the polls, and Donald Trump can say that he doesn't believe the polls and they're fake and all of that. But I got to believe there are smart people in his administration and they're like, okay, sir, these might be wonky, but this one's real. You know what I mean? Or or in the aggregate, maybe you're not at 33, but you're definitely below 40 or whatever. Gas prices were going down. It looked like the conflict was calming. It looked like he could have gotten an off ramp, taken the L, and just getting the hell out. Instead, we're going to start bombing them again, and immediately starts doing that, and gas goes back up to $4. We're 110 days away from the election. 110, 105. Anyway, we're just a little over 100 days away from the midterms. And I read an article today, and I don't remember who it was by, and it doesn't matter because the sentiment makes sense. They said it seems like Donald Trump does not give a shit. It seems like he doesn't give a shit about
anything.
Well, that, but it seems like he doesn't care about helping Republicans win the midterms.
No.
Instead, because again, we've talked about this, that requires work and that requires focus. He just wants them to pass the SAVE Act because he thinks that's going to keep Democrats.
Well, and he keeps talking about he's back on the talk of the stolen election. I'm like, oh my God, when are we going to let that go? Like,
Never. I mean, well, again, we've talked about this, and I'm not a psychiatrist, but I've known narcissists in my life. And narcissists create their own reality. And his father, and if you listen to Mary Trump, she talks about how his father was aloof and
right.
And all of that kind of stuff. And then not only his father, but then when he had the relationship, and I don't mean sexual, so nobody go there. But I don't know. But my point is the relationship with Roy Cohn, who was who was with he was the guy who was backing McCarthy and then everything else. Roy Cohn's thing was attack, never, double down, never admit it. So Trump was raised, sadly, to believe that any loss makes you a loser. So it's just really weird. So, and this is bear with me on this. If you win 100 times in your life, or I'm sorry, you compete 100 times, but you lose once, the idea, the mental, the psychology that makes you a loser is so sad to me. And you've said before that you felt sorry for Trump in certain ways. I feel sorry for Trump in that way, that if he truly believes that any loss makes him 100% weak, I mean, how do you live like that? So here we are.
And let's talk about in general, like my sorrow comes to the fact of any human being who can spend so much time worrying about how they stand up against others. I don't care what my IQ is. I don't care how it compares to yours. I don't care if I know an answer you don't know. I don't care. That doesn't matter to me. And I really despise when people start with that kind of mentality of, I'm going to audit you, validate it, and then I'm going to attack.
Right.
It's sort of a very typical psychological game that goes on in a power play and in a narcissist. They're going to find a way to get you. And I hate it because it's like, why do you start from that? One. Two, how sad it is that that's the only place you can go. You can't even be happy with who you are.
Right.
I always look at it like, hey, I've messed a lot of things up in my life. I've gone a lot of wrong ways, but I'm okay.
Well, and like you said, I mean, and let's not get into the weirdness of things that have been said. But in the Constitution, I believe it's very clear, and the Supreme Court has upheld this for the most part, that you can only be president twice. You can only serve for 8 years. So there's only a handful. I think I'd have to go back and look. There's only a handful of presidents that have done 8 years. Trump's one of the only. I think he's the second ever or third ever to split. Split. Yeah, but you've been president twice, dude. Like, so you lost it. So you lost in 2020. Why does that make you a loser? And more importantly, it's okay because it doesn't matter. But if he were to somehow successfully show that he actually won in 2020, be like, okay, so you've been.
Now what do we do? What do you want to do with that fact?
You need to pack up and go home because
you don't belong here now.
Right. You then in that case, you shouldn't have run the third time. But I'm just saying, he's won twice. He's I don't. I've talked about this before. I told my son there's two ways of looking at the world. Do you want to be right or do you want to do you want peace? And I don't mean peace, dude. I mean like peace in yourself, like not drama, not argumentative and everything else. And my whole life I've run from drama, and I strive for peace, personal internal peace.
Right.
I'm one of the least competitive people you'll ever meet. Now, if we're like playing a game, I will talk all sorts of shit because
Well, it's a game, right?
well, I get more fun out of that. I would rather lose and talk shit than win and not. I'm just that to me is the fun part of it. But I really don't care if I win or not. And it just it's just, I don't want to say baffles me. It's fascinating to me in a sad way to think of someone like Donald Trump or any other narcissist whose entire life is wrapped up in I've never lost. And it's just like,
well, and the saddest thing is,
I mean, I feel for it. Like you said, I feel for him or any other person who can't just go, hey, yeah, I lost. Oh, well.
I mean, at his core, he just wants a legacy because other presidents have a legacy, right? He wants someone to remember him for something he did that was important enough they want to put his name on it, right? And because he knows that can't happen now, because it's just not in the public view, he does it himself and garners more disfavor, right? So it's like he could have done things in this term that could have really left him. He could have spent all that money on good stuff, right? He could have still blown the budgets and fucked over everything, but he could have spent it on something good. They could have changed the world, right?
You just said what I was thinking, and I mean this. Donald Trump could have come into office and all of the promises he made, no foreign wars, going to get prices down, going to make it better for the middle class. If we were sitting here now, almost 2 years into his presidency, a year and a half, whatever it's been, into his presidency, and you and I could honestly look at each other and say, well, he gave a tax break for the middle class. And he put some things in place that, drove prices down, and, and we haven't had any foreign wars, and we've got a good place in this world. He didn't put
where he actually put that peace thing he built into use and made it happen and work.
or he didn't throw weird ass tariffs on everything and upset the global economy. And if he'd done any of those things, or if he had said, you know what, one of the biggest problems in this country is we got to do term limits, and had pushed through term limits with a full.
But he could have even used himself jokingly as an example. Joe and I are the reason we need this. That's what I would have done. Right, he could have pulled Joe right into it, right?
Right. He could have. He has a Republican Congress and Senate that are scared to death of him, or just giving him a blank check. He could have gone to the American people and said, look, I think we need term limits, and I want you to remember the name of anybody who votes against this, because they're not here to serve you. And we'd be talking about his legacy instead of, and this goes back to, and again, I'm not hammering the man. I'm not hammering the politician. I'm talking about the man. And he obviously doesn't want to do the work. I don't think he wants to be president. I think he likes the title. I don't think he obviously doesn't want to do the work.
I think there was an interview with him early on. This was Oprah Winfrey, right? Where he was on there with her, and he sort of said, no, I don't want to be president. I don't need that. But I think he even stated, it's a lot of work that I don't want to do. He was the same with his own businesses, right? He's a top level. He's the deal guy. He'll go and get the deal. Then you figure out how to make it happen. He puts his minions on it.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that kind of person in the right place. And he thought he was going to come into the United States government and be CEO of America.
Right.
And have a bunch of minions run around, do his thing, and just call the shots. And governments don't work that way anywhere. Even the best,
right. But the other problem with it, you and I talked about, I think last week, about, and again, this is not a political statement. I can back this up, and anybody who's paying even a modicum of attention would have to go, yeah, that's true. He loves to be in the limelight. He loves to be the center of attention. So if he could have been the CEO and put good people, not the sycophantic losers that he has in there now. And yes, I will get into that if you'd like, commenters. But I'm looking at you, Pete Hegsa. But the bottom line is he could have put good people in place and then delegated and just done the big things like, I've got to talk to foreign leaders.
Oh, that's the way, right? If you're going to do that, you have to delegate, right? He never even in his business delegated well.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. I mean, you got to put in the work.
Yeah.
So instead, and you're 100% correct. And let's dissect Donald Trump as a man for a minute, because this part makes me sad too. Yes, I believe he is horribly fucking up our country, but I also looking at him as a human being. So instead of doing things that when let's just say, and then bear with me. Let's say he finishes his term, walks off into the sunset, and takes his last breath the next day. And I'm not wishing him anything. I'm just saying, let's say that's the end of his life. So this presidency and then he could have legacy, but by doing the work and helping the average American. Instead, I'm gonna just deface the White House and put up a ballroom that probably won't be done before he's out of office.
Oh, you're leading everything in a state of shambles. That's crazy.
Well, I'm gonna build an arch. I'm gonna redo forget the fact that they're shit shows. I'm gonna build an arch to what? You haven't done anything. You've been president. If that's the case, then we go back to the old Egyptian, the pharaohs who everybody built a damn pyramid, no matter how long you were pharaoh. If that's the case, there should be a Barack Obama arch, and there should be a George W. Bush arch. And anyway, the bottom line is he's going to do that, and he's going to cover statues in gold, and he's going to do the 250th with Milli Vanilli. It's all of those things are not going to leave a legacy. First of all, I'll be shocked if the arch ever gets finished, but just little things like that. And it's like, instead of doing that as your legacy, because the bottom line is you get a Democrat in, and Democrat scratches, let's say the arch gets finished. You scratch Trump's name off of it and you leave it blank, just like with the Kennedy Center.
Yeah.
So those things
they have really no lasting. They don't last unless there's a reason for them to last.
Okay, so look at it this way. I don't know if this is true, so bear with me. Let's assume for a minute that Abe Lincoln did something, renovated the White House or one of the rooms or something. I don't know that. I don't think you know that. Does that matter? Well, when we think of Abraham Lincoln, we think of what? He kept the Union together. He freed the slaves. He's considered George Washington. George Washington owned slaves. George Washington did a lot of funky things, but he's also the father of the country. He helped defeat the British, and it's arguable that without George Washington, we would not be in America right now. We'd be speaking with a British accent. But the bottom line is, legacy is something that lasts forever. Legacy comes from works, not from things.
Well, and not every president has that level of legacy. There are few that we could name, right? So Kennedy probably being the most recent one, having the longest lasting legacy. And before that, it takes a while to go back and find the next one, right? You kind of have to go back to World War II. You have to go back to World War I. There's not every president, even Clinton and Bush and Obama don't have true big legacy.
No.
There's nothing out there that says, oh my God, this was because, right? It doesn't scream that.
Right. So think about it this way. So Barack Obama will always be the first Black president.
Right. And there's no changing.
No, I'm just saying, can't take, so 200 years from now, if you're reading a history book,
right.
You'll read, I mean this, nothing against Obama, but I think his little blip will be first Black president. Joe Biden.
Nothing. It'll be nothing.
No, it'll be, he was
no, Clinton either. Despite the controversies of his term, right? There'll be nothing.
He'll be the 46th president or whatever. I'm just saying, no, I'm not trying to, you name the biggies, you name, Washington, Jefferson, Madison, maybe, and then you go to, and I'm going to miss a bunch, but then you go to Abraham Lincoln, and then you go to Teddy Roosevelt, and then you go, and then you go to Eisenhower, and then you go to FDR, and then you go
Kennedy.
Well, you go Nixon. Well, you go Kennedy. You go Nixon, and he's always going to be remembered for Watergate, and then I would suggest that that's about it.
Well, Reagan's probably going to be seen as the big patriot. That's what I think. It's the only other one that kind of gets Reagan. He'll get given he kind of turned things around with Russia. He ended the Cold War. That'll be
okay, yes, absolutely ended the Cold War, and then
Bush too. George W. gets it for the world. The war, the terror attacks, right? End of the Twin Towers.
Right. The Twin Towers. And then
that's not a legacy you necessarily want to hold on to.
That was going to be my point. There's two different kinds of legacies. We look at John F. Kennedy for what he did, and then of course
there's Bay of Pigs, right? There's
Bay of Pigs, and then
communism issues, and all kinds of stuff went on in Kennedy that weren't good.
Of course, he was assassinated.
But he was also the biggest civil rights changes ever, too.
Right, and he was assassinated, so people of a certain age will tell you exactly where they were when they found out. So that's part of the American thing. But then you got Nixon, who, and I'll be honest, I'm not a presidential scholar. Maybe Nixon did some great things, but that albatross of Watergate's always going to, and resigning is always going to hang around his neck.
Yeah, he
And
tried to do. He
unfortunately-
tried too to leave a legacy of stopping wars and ending stuff, but he couldn't figure it out, right?
Well, he actually opened China. Remember, he's
Yeah,
the
that's true.
first one to really open them.
Well, there's the positive legacy for him. Mhm.
Right, but
But he's always going to be the Watergate president that resigned.
well, that's what I'm saying. You say Nixon, Watergate, and I'm truly afraid that no matter how Donald Trump is trying to frame this, I think, at least in the decades to come, the legacy he is leaving is not the one he wants to leave. I think it's going to be, ice shooting people on the street. It's going to be gutting FEMA. It's going to be gutting a SNAP. It's going to be.
He had 2 attempts to deliver a new Air Force One and failed.
Right. Well,
he's had the attempt to do a lot of things that haven't come true, right? And
billion-
nobody will ever give him credit for the White House ballroom if it happens, because it's going to happen under another president, and they'll get credit for it.
Right. And then the billions he's made, the first president ever to like stupidly, openly enrich themselves. I'm not going to suggest in any way that other presidents haven't enriched themselves
They all find a way.
quietly, but not like this. I mean,
Yeah. This has been so much where I'm like, who knew you could sell yourself out so easily?
I would bet that you could take all of the presidents in history. I don't know how you would do this, but I bet you could take all the presidents in history and how much they enriched themselves while they were president, and Trump literally laps them all. Like,
well, if you remember when Bill
was
was done and Hillary was done, they were getting like $1 million speaking fees, and everybody was in uproar. Why are they getting these fees? Like, well, they were after their terms.
Well, it's like,
right?
like Obama, people lost their stuff because he got like a $5 million or $7 million advance on his book after he was out of office. Here's my thing: if you're a president or you're a public
after
official,
the office, you should be able to monetize this shit out of it.
I was going to say, if like you and I think you and I talked once before about Hillary Clinton. If somebody's dumb enough to pay her $1 million to speak, baby, I'm going to speak. And
people will go see it, right? Because there's always a star spec. I went and saw Hillary speak because she spoke at Salesforce, right? At Dreamforce. And it was one of those things where I got to see Gore, Hillary, a bunch of big names at the time. Would I have paid? No. Because I got to go for free? Yes.
Right. But I'm saying if you look.
And I'll buy their books too, because I always find them interesting, but I know what you're saying.
Right. I'm nobody in this world. And I don't mean that to be negative to myself, but as far as like popularity and
no one's going to give you $1 million to write your book right now.
or if somebody said, hey, I'll give you $15,000 to come speak, where and when?
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
You gave me $5,000 to come and speak. I'd be
right. I wasn't. Wow. I actually don't know where.
Some more nights with a hotel and a dinner. Sure.
I'll be honest. I'm not sure where 15,000 came from. It just popped out. But no, if you offered me money to speak, what time you want me there? Like, I'll speak. But
you're doing the lunchtime rush speech, okay?
Right. But that's what I'm saying. So to insinuate or say that people who have been president or high levels like Hillary Clinton and all of that, they shouldn't make money if people offer them money to speak. Kiss my butt. Unless you just are completely against speaking in public, I defy anybody listening to be like, if I offered you $100,000 right now to do a 30-minute speech and I'll write it for you, I got everybody right now, except for serious introverts or shy people going, yeah, I'm there. But Dean enriching himself while he's been in office, I would bet that the $2 billion he made, or the $2 billion that he said he made, and I don't know how much he actually made, but the $2 billion he said he made would be more than all presidents combined.
Yeah.
But it's what I'm saying. Unfortunately, I think he is setting himself up in the decades to come for negative. No matter what he builds or how much gold he slaps on something, I think his legacy is going to be that he pushed, rubbed up against the guardrails of our democracy and,
the things will not be good. I think about my own legacy times. Like, what do I leave behind me, right? There's no kids. There's nothing but a name. Mm-hmm. And when I do things, I think, well, at least I'm trying to make the world a better place. And that's where I want to be when I end, when I'm walking out the door and saying goodbye, I'm hoping that people say, well, you did a lot of good things for people. He was nice to people. He was kind. You know?
That's the funny thing, not funny, haha, but that's the funny thing about all this. I have said for years, and I'm not the brightest bulb, but I have said for years, and I mean this from my bottom of my heart, if I'm in a place where I'm going to die and I could take my last breath and be lucid. Okay, so I realize that's a lot of ifs, but if I'm in a hospital bed, get ready to take my final breath, and I have a moment to think, I don't care what people say about me as long as they say I was a good husband and a good father. That's it. And you can extrapolate that out, Jim, for you, what you said. Did you help your community? Were you a good person? Did you help people out when you could? Did you give a smile? Those things, those are all that matter because, and we talked about this last week, Jim Hauck could be worth $500 billion and be the biggest prick on the planet who never helps anybody. So what are we going to say? Well, he was rich. I mean, I don't want that. I want the human things. Hey, he was in your case, he was a good brother. He was a good son. He was good whatever. That's the stuff that lives on, because that lives on in the people who love us and the people who knew us. Because like I said, you can be stupid wealthy and stupid successful and your family hates you, and nobody want to be around you.
Right.
But
right,
I don't think, unfortunately, from what I have read, Donald Trump's dad set it up that if you weren't a winner, if you ain't first, you're last kind of thing. And that obviously has had a profound effect on him.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure enough. I mean, it's one of those things I don't generally have a lot of feeling for Trump, but I feel for anyone who's in a position where they just don't know, that they don't really get it. They don't understand how people see them. They don't know why they live in a truth that is such a phase of reality. It doesn't belong to anybody. Just sad. And narcissism is the thing. I get it.
So yeah, because one of two things is happening. He either truly convinces himself that reality is not reality. I mean, because like when he went to the World Cup final and people were booing him, and I'm not saying everybody was booing him, but there were a lot of boos, and then it was really interesting. I don't know if you caught, I think it was an Australian channel or news were showing, like they were running it live. And when Trump was on stage, and it was very clear that the president of FIFA was trying to say, hey, come on, dude, this is for Spain, and he wouldn't go. And the guy said something along the lines of, what the hell's he doing there? We can edit this out, right? And my point is that a lot of people, there's been a lot of negative press about him inserting himself in that. As it should be. It wasn't his moment. It was Spain's moment. And I would have said that if Barack Obama had done it or anybody else. It's not your moment. It's not your moment. It's Spain's moment. But he either is completely oblivious to that, which makes me sad, or he hears it and it doesn't matter to him because he just needs to have the attention. I taught, for those of you joining us for the first time, thank you very much. We're Life in a Baggage Claim. Jim and I talk about politics and the right and wrongs of things, not so much the right and left of things. But so if you've never joined us, I was in education. I was a principal and a teacher, alternative education for years. And, I dealt with a lot of kids who were so starved for attention, negative attention and punishment made them happy. They didn't say that, but like any attention, because negative attention is the easiest to get. If I go into a coffee shop and start screaming at people, everybody's going to notice. Everybody's going to listen. But if I go into a coffee shop and I'm quiet and I'm, and I thank the barista or whatever they're called, and I don't drink coffee, but or I thank the cashier, make a little joke and then leave, that cashier will be like, oh, that was a nice guy. But the rest of the patrons won't necessarily know I was even there. So we would have kids who would do all this negative behavior just to get attention. And I feel like either one, whether that's the case where he just will do whatever to get any kind of attention, or is oblivious and has convinced himself that he is really, really popular, whichever one, they both make me sad for him. They really do. And that's a human moment. That's not a politics thing. Now, having said that, I would really love him to not be president anymore. But as a human being, there's a lot I see that makes me sad because I don't believe at my core that he's happy. you can't be and need all that attention and lash out at people. And, he did it again today. He was pretty crappy to a female reporter who just asked him an honest question.
Why can't we speak up about that? Why is that? Why does that reporter sit there and take it? If you started calling me a retard or an idiot, you'd probably get me to my feet. And if you kept going, I'd probably come within inches of your face.
You don't know why you don't know why they take it? Because
No.
if they don't take it, they get thrown out of the press pool.
Well, see, and that's the problem. We let that happen. That again, we come back to
agree.
You let it happen.
Agree. Oh no, couldn't agree more. But that's the thing. I mean, you get thrown out of the press pool, and Jim does not want to go back to his editor and say, "Yeah, I got snarky with the president now, and now our entire news outlet is not allowed to be there anymore." So that's why they put up with it. They have to, and he knows that. That's this whole administration.
So shame on our free press for not standing up for the rights they want and need, because if they're being taken away, it's their own frickin' damn fault. And so therefore, I give the American press my Baggie of the Week award.
What a segue! What a segue! All right, I'm down with that. Yeah,
a new game, right?
I like that. That was smooth, Mr. Hauck. That was very smooth.
Yeah, sometimes I got it. Sometimes I don't.
Well, and you and I talked about this last week, and unfortunately, in his first term, a lot of things were normalized that we can all, I think, agree are completely not normal and unnatural. Like the press is the enemy of the people, and all of that I'm not going to relitigate. But the bottom line is, yes, he's brilliant in that he does these things by degrees. Yeah. And you're like, all right, well, I put up with that, but I'm not putting up with the next thing. And then the next thing hits, and you're like, well, but I'm not gonna. And then, yeah,
the true thing that's going to be the most interesting is come forward in 2 more years when we have a new president on the way in. What changes? How much of what has now become normal goes back? How much of it just keeps? What's going to be the role? What's going to be the new role? What's the world look like?
Well, all right. So I am going to be political for half a second. No, I am. I think if we have a Democrat for a president in 2028, I think he or she's feet are going to be much more held to the fire because the Republicans are not going to hold back. Democrats wring their hands. You remember when Chuck Schumer, and I almost lost my mind when he was like, we wrote the president a very, very strong letter with several questions. And it was like, what?
Strong letter, yes.
Like, dude, a strong letter. Anyway, I think even if the Republicans are in the minority in the House or the Senate, they're going to hold the president accountable, and a lot of things are going to, because again, the MAGA is post-hypocrisy. If they do it, it's fine. If you do it, oh hell no. And my hope is if we get, and I'm just spitballing. I'm hoping if we get a Pete Buttigieg or somebody like that who is, so when Joe Biden, my son and I got in a bit of an argument, and I hope he's listening, because I want to do this justice. My son was a big Bernie Sanders fan.
Yeah.
And I explained to him that in 2016, when they screwed Bernie Sanders out and they ordained, or whatever you call it, Hillary Clinton, my son was really upset. And I said, well, I didn't think Bernie Sanders could win. Then in 2020, when Bernie Sanders ran, I was like, he can beat Trump. He can, because people, we were coming out. I believe that we were coming out of the pandemic. Bernie Sanders was making sense to folks. And then, of course, they screwed him again. But the bottom line is, I told my son that I thought Bernie could win, but I also said after 4 years of Trump, I thought Joe Biden was the perfect pick. Let me explain. I thought after all of the turmoil of the first term and COVID and everything else, yep, I thought we needed the most milquetoast, middle of the road person on the planet to counteract that. And I was
beat Sleepy Joe for that.
Well, I was correct. It was most people didn't hate Joe Biden, so he won. I believe that a Pete Buttigieg is the perfect counteraction to all that, because unlike Joe Biden, he's young, he's dynamic, and I think he's middle of the road in that he makes sense to the American people, but I also think he's left enough to actually do things for the American people.
Yeah. And he's writing up on the right things too. I mean, he's got a good balanced strategy on how he looks at stuff.
Oh, exactly. So my point is, I would love to see him, like somebody like him, get in. And I think if they've got any guts and if they're anything like I think they are, I would love to see them start putting guardrails on everything and just saying, we want term limits. We want to close this gap. We want to make sure that no president ever does this anymore. I don't know. If
there definitely would be momentum to do that following this current term, right? I mean, coming out of this term, people are going to be like, okay, how do we stop this again? And there's going to be people who will say, well, why is it so bad, right? But to stop it again is going to be the majority. Most people are going to want to see something done.
Well, and also you're 100% agree. And the strength of that is if a Democrat is president and says, we need to make this not happen, how do Republicans argue that? I mean, they could, but I mean, how do you argue it by saying, we just had 4 years of a president who did a Republican president who did any damn thing they want. We need to close these gaps. We need to get rid of these loopholes so that no president ever does this again. How do you look at the current president and say, wait, you're putting limits on yourself? That's not okay.
Yeah.
All right, Jim.
Yes.
Here's your happy ending. It's a short one. A decade ago, a young American began recording interviews with World War II combat veterans to satisfy his curiosity about the war. That curiosity became something of an obsession, and 3,000 veterans later, his hard drives and SD cards have become something of a national treasure. Brought to us from Steve Hartman from CBS News' On the Road, 28-year-old Rishi Sharma says it's been a privilege to meet the moral compass behind our society. I've spent every single day of the last 10 years doing that, said Sharma, having recently finished speaking to a 100-year-old survivor of Iwo Jima. Sharma was first interviewed by Hartman in 2016 when the fresh-faced post-high schooler was mostly driving around his Southern California region for his curiosity. At that time, the young man was planning a multi-year trip around the country with the aim of saving as many stories from veterans as could be saved before the curtain came down on the greatest generation. Hartman said that back when he first met Sharma, there were some 700,000 World War II vets still among us. Today, that number stands at 30,000. Just the advice they impart silently steers the ship of this country, Sharma said. So to all you patriots out there, here's a kid, Rishi Sharma. I saw his picture. I think he's obviously of Middle Eastern descent who is going around and talking to real patriots because I
tell you, our studio audience is good today. They really like it, Chuck. I've never seen such a response.
No, I talking to real patriots, and we can argue. We can argue about the greatest generation all you want, but I defy anybody to say that folks who fought in World War II to fight against fascism and world domination aren't patriots. So
now shout out to thank you Riverside FM for finally giving us something to play with that's more fun than turning our faces into animals and such. So,
exactly.
The sound effects are courtesy of them, and they're fun.
Chip did that one time and sent it to me, and I was like, no.
Oh yeah, I sent you the whole animated episode. You're like, what is this?
That's creepy as hell. Yeah, no,
I think I sent you monkeys before monkeys became a Trump thing. Well, Chuck, look at another week knocked under here, and we're moving forward. You know what's coming up, Chuck?
What's that?
I'm hitting my milestone just a couple weeks away.
When's your birthday, brother?
The 30th.
30th. I have to remember that.
Oh, I can't believe it. This is not where I pictured I'd be.
I'll send you a fruit basket or something.
Send me a fruit basket. Hey, I'll tell you what. I'm going to a big shout out to my church because I got a food box from them. And let me tell you, it was stuff I probably wouldn't buy, and some of it was damn good.
Okay.
But I do believe things come to you when you need them. I had my guest here. His name is Tariq. He's now become a listener as well. He's from Palestine. We talked a lot about Palestine, Israel, and all kinds of other stuff while he was here. He's also Islamic. So we had some great conversations sitting on the back deck this week. So I feel like I got a good education while I was here. So shout out to Tariq for making it an interesting week for me to learn stuff.
Would he be willing to be a guest?
We can consider that. He's busy a lot, so we'll see if we can make it happen. It's kind of hard because he's a smart guy. He's got a good degree. He's a counselor and things like that. So, but he's driving Uber all summer long to make money while school's out. And he's the poor guy. He loves to do it, but he also hates some of the customers. It's just like me. That's that thing of they get in, they get demanding.
I can understand.
But it was a great education. My pastor always says, go out and meet people of other religions, talk to them, get to understand them so that you know what you're talking about, right? And he really was good at sharing different things from Islam that I didn't know, right? I didn't know some of the stories and the reasons, right? So it was a good thing. And maybe at some point we should even talk about that stuff because I think that's something people get like, oh my God, those are the guys who were the terrorists. Well, no, but so good to learn. I'm very happy.
Yeah.
Well, remember, these are the people that feel they were being pushed over and picked our current president.
I know.
But, and you know what? I get where those biases come from. I've had them in my head and my heart before too, where you kind of feel like that's what happens. It's not, and you just have to start listening. You have to think about the facts, right? So sometimes those things are true, sometimes they're not. And I think the better thing is to just not talk about them.
Well, the interesting, my wife and I've had this conversation before, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but all stereotypes start with some
phase of reality, yeah,
some sort of fact. But then, unfortunately, they usually the kernel of truth gets blown way out of proportion, and it just becomes racist. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Well, on that note, Chuck, keeping all racism aside, you have a great week, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Like, subscribe, blow us up, make us happy. We'd love to hear from you. Join us. We have a community on Facebook now. You can find it at Life in the Baggage Claim. You just have to answer a few questions and you can join. We're trying to do more there. We're not going to charge for anything. We're not looking for that, but we'll tell you what, it's nice to see the numbers grow. It's nice to see something finally going on. And, that's all we want. We just want to get popular.
I want to be loved.
Just adore me. All right. Bye.
Have a great week.